Welcome! Today, we're going to peel back the wrapper on something that's in pretty much every kitchen, sugar. Now, it's a product that's surrounded by all kinds of rumors, so we're going inside a factory to see exactly how it gets from a green stalk in a field to that white crystal in your bowl.
So let's just start with a question, right? Do you really know what's in your sugar? Because you've probably heard some pretty wild stories about how it's made, things that might make you think twice before you stir it into your morning coffee.
You know the ones I'm talking about. Stories that say the whole process is unhygienic, that it's made in these filthy conditions, maybe even crushed by foot. But are these just scary rumors, or is there actually some truth to them? All right, let's find out. To get to the bottom of it, we're going on a complete virtual tour. We're gonna follow the entire journey, step by step, from the sugarcane fields, right through the heart of a modern factory, then into the lab for final testing, and finally, we'll get to the sweet truth.
Okay. Our journey starts where all sugar does, out in these vast, sun-drenched sugarcane fields. This is really where the foundation for a quality, safe product is laid. And, believe it or not, it all kicks off with a race against the clock.
So check out this number, 24. This is basically the golden rule. All the harvested sugarcane has to get from the field and start being processed at the factory within 24 hours. If it takes any longer, the cane starts to dry out, and you lose all that precious sugar content.
And before a single piece of that cane even makes it onto the factory grounds, the very first step is a really strict quality check. Every truck gets weighed, and a core sample is taken to measure exactly how much sugar is in it. This isn't just for quality control, you know. It's also to make sure the farmers are getting paid fairly for their crop.
All right, let's step inside the factory itself. And wow, it's like a small city made of steel and steam. It's incredibly self-sufficient. It actually generates its own electricity by burning the leftover sugarcane fiber. So the cane starts this journey of some pretty intense mechanical prep. First, it gets chopped up by massive knives. Then it's shredded into a soft pulp. And here's a really critical safety step. Before it gets crushed, all that pulp passes under a super powerful magnet. This is to pull out any stray metal pieces that might have gotten picked up from the field. That shredded cane then moves through a series of enormous rollers that apply literally hundreds of tons of pressure. The efficiency here is just incredible. The pulp gets pressed not just once, but 4 or 5 times, and they spray hot water in between passes to make sure every last drop of that sweet juice is extracted. So now we've got this raw juice, but honestly, it's still pretty murky. It's full of impurities and, of course, a lot of water. So the next stage is this big, multi-step purification and concentration process to turn this raw liquid into pure, crystalline sugar.
First up is a systematic cleaning. They add lime and sulfur, which makes all the impurities clump together and sink to the bottom. That gunk then gets filtered out and, get this, it's repurposed as farm fertilizer. Nothing is wasted here. Finally, the now clear juice is boiled under a vacuum to get rid of most of the water, concentrating it into a thick, golden syrup.
This thick syrup, which is a mix of sugar crystals and molasses called massacute, now moves on to what is, I think, the most dramatic part of the whole process, the separation. This whole transformation happens inside a really high-speed machine called a centrifuge. It works kind of like a washing machine on its spin cycle, but, 1,000 times more powerful.
And this is just pure physics at work. It's awesome. The machine spins that dark, thick mixture at incredible speeds. The force is so strong it just slings the heavier, dark molasses out through a fine mesh, leaving the sugar crystals behind. They give it a quick wash with hot water, and in an instant, you're left with pure, white sugar. It's amazing.
Now, here is a key point that speaks directly to those myths we talked about at the beginning. This entire process is fully automated. It's all computer-controlled. From the centrifuge to the final drying stage, the sugar is completely untouched by human hands, which ensures a really high level of hygiene.
But okay, even after all that, how do we know the final product is truly pure and safe? Well, that's where the most important room in the whole place comes in, the on-site laboratory. You can think of it as the factory's brain.
In here, technicians are running constant, rigorous tests on everything. A device called a polarimeter checks for the exact purity. They measure moisture levels to make sure your sugar won't clump up, they analyze crystal size for consistency, and crucially, they test for sulfur dioxide levels to confirm that whitening agent is well within safe, regulated limits. They even test the factory's wastewater to make sure it's clean enough for fish to live in before it's released. And nothing, absolutely nothing, moves on to the next stage without this scientific seal of approval. Every single batch has to pass all these strict tests before it's finally cleared for packaging.
So, we've followed the entire journey, right? From a dusty cane field to a high-tech lab. We've seen every single step of the modern production line. It's time to circle back to our original question.
After seeing all of this for ourselves, what's the real story? How do those old, persistent rumors really stack up against the reality we've just witnessed inside a modern sugar factory?
Well, I think the key takeaway is pretty clear. Today's sugar production is a highly controlled, scientific, and automated process. It is a world away from those unhygienic myths. The real story isn't one of filth and feet, but of physics, chemistry, and just constant quality control. And it really leaves us with a final thought. Maybe the best way to understand anything isn't by just listening to rumors, but by seeing the process for ourselves.